Well, that is a success. The LS swap we did here at Woods Off-Road totally transformed the way this vehicle drives. It is now a pleasure to go down the road in. I can't wait to get it out on the trail. One thing I do have to do still, we kept the factory radiator. It turned out being a little questionable. It doesn't run hot, but it was full of junk and core's looking a little rotted, so I ordered a brand new one from BJ's Off-Road. It arrived, so I'm gonna swap that today as soon as this thing cools down. And while I'm doing that, the gang here at Woods Off-Road are gonna attack a 2022 Chevy Silverado. We're gonna do a 6-inch Superlift suspension, a Flowmaster Aftercat exhaust, upgrade the wheels and tires, and add some off-road lighting. Then we're all gonna meet out in the desert in Johnson Valley and have some off-road fun.
All right, we're gonna grab a bungee cord so we're not hanging off the brake lines here. And when you're doing this kit, you wanna make sure all these lines are disconnected from the knuckle because we're gonna go ahead and replace this with a Superlift one.
Got one piece of the puzzle done. There's an O-ring in here we want to make sure to not damage. Perfect, so we got an O-ring here. You make sure to go into the new spindle, the ABS sensor that's in there. Make sure there's no fluid, water, damage in there.
Got it. So we have almost everything loosened up. I'm gonna go ahead and take the drive shaft off of the differential. There's some modification that needs to happen to the frame in order for the differential drop to actually work.
Rear cross member will not be reused because it'll be part of the new subframe. And then what we have to do, measure 3 inches, and then we're gonna cut to be able to let the differential come down in the pinion, clear the chassis, and then the new mount that gets replaced is now on the new cross member.
Now we're at the point where we're gonna install these differential drop brackets.
Come through. Wish that was like shorter.
No.
I mean, it's only sometimes being shorter is good.
Okay, a little more. Wait. The original lower control arm mounts have cam slots in them. These special washers here have an indexing hole for the pin on the chassis. These are gonna eliminate that slot so there's no moving around. What this drop bracket's gonna do is it's gonna keep the differential pointed at the transfer case and it's gonna correct driveline angle as well, so you won't have to worry about any of that. Anytime you guys put air to something, never trust your air tools. Just because it feels the same on the air tool doesn't mean it's right. Always put a hand tool on it afterwards.
So we got the strut. We're gonna run the strut spacers. We'll come through, and that would be a real pain to try to hold that up, fit it in there and everything. So they come with these little nice fancy clips. So we'll set that in there. Always got a little trick, take a socket, set them in there so that'll hold real nice and tight. Then we'll take the factory hardware that came out with it, and that's what'll sit on there because it's got a larger washer already built into it, and that'll be the factory hardware into the factory hole. Perfect. Check it again, just make sure. See, that's why I always check again, because I just got a little bit more out of it. Perfect. 44.7. We'll be good. So Johnny's up top right now. He's got the keys in the forward position. We're going lock to lock at full droop to be able to check the brake lines to make sure that they're not going to be pulling, getting tight, and have a chance of rupturing down the line. This point right here will never change because the caliper stays on the spindle, so this could always be a little taut, but right here we've got all this movement, and this will be the longest stretch that we have because we're gonna be full clock left and it'll be stretching, so I wanna have Johnny go, and go to the other side, go passenger. So we make sure everything's all good. We clear, make sure it stays away from everything. Perfect. Once we set on the ground, we'll be able to tighten the lower control arms and the upper control arms since they are bushing, and now we're getting ready to move to the rear.
The kit was supplied with a bracket that drops the brake lines down. Just make sure when you're done that you check your brake lines again, make sure nothing's out of place, and then when you torque your U-bolts, each diameter U-bolt has its own torque spec. And then one most important thing is do not reuse U-bolts. I've seen them break on the trail and it's catastrophic, it's bad.
A little bit of lube on the bushing that'll go pressed in. My little trick, if you try to sit there and push the bushing in, it'll jump out most of the time. So I'll just get it on a flat piece of surface, use the shock because it's got bigger surface area, tap into it, come to the edge. Always use a dead blow or a rubber mallet just to be able to see it don't mar anything. Find home, use an hourglass, and then at that point, lube up the sleeve, and the factory hardware will slide right in there.
We're gonna go ahead and start taking off the old setup. Got it. We're gonna go ahead and install this Flow X muffler system that we got from Flowmaster.
Not too tight because we still gotta position a little bit for the ones that go up and over the axle, which is Johnny's getting right now.
We just got the tires back from the tire shop. We are going to be running Yokohama Geolanders, and we got hooked up with a set of Pro Comp wheels. As you can see, the tires are larger. So the factory tires are just underneath 33 inches. These Yokohama Geolanders are 35s. The tire package is not so heavy that we're going to have to worry about any sort of power loss, and we're not going to have to worry about gearing. Making sure that the tires are all settled, because the IFS suspension, when it comes off the ground, what it likes to do is it likes to point like this. So when you set the vehicle down on the ground, the rubber makes it stay like that. So you want to push the car back and forth and let those tires kind of pull out. Because we don't have an alignment rack here and it's going to be driving a couple miles to our alignment shop, we don't want to eat up the brand new tires. So we're going to eyeball and get them real close as much as we can. And then it should be good. Otherwise, if we drive it real pigeon-toed, it's going to chew up the tires right out of the gate. Usually these curvature light bars are to go above the windshield. But when you do that, especially on the newer vehicles where you can see the entire hood from the driver's seat, what ends up happening is it lights up the hood and then it defeats the purpose of having a light bar. We went ahead and chose to do it right in front of this grill. Matches the curvature pretty closely. It's not going to blind the driver and it's going to give us a good field of vision at night being in this location. Shane has already marked the tabs while I held it in place, centered and level. And then we're going to dimple the holes, drill, mount them, and then wire this thing up. Pretty easy. So we're gonna have to wire this inside the car somewhere, figure out where to put this guy. Little button, comes with its own relay. I was able to find the grommet in the firewall. It's got like an extra little nubbin just in case you want to run some wires into the cab. So I just cut the end of that off. It actually runs inside of the car, which is perfect. I don't have to drill any holes. I'm not trying to make anything crazy.
Perfect, we're all wired up. Come through. Come on, Johnny, let there be light.
Ooh. All right, so that wraps up the build on this 2022 Silverado. The guys are gonna take this thing off-roading up in Johnson Valley. They're gonna have a blast.
Okay, it's game day. We're here in Johnson Valley. The guys got here last night, found a really cool camping spot, had a great night under the stars, campfire, made some breakfast this morning. I rolled in the Cherokee Chief, the Chevy Silverado's here. Unfortunately, the transmission completely went out in the Bronco, so Cody brought his really cool step side. We have some friends from out of town here with us who've never been here, so we've grabbed our Onyx off-road app, hit Johnson Valley, and we planned out some cool things for them to see. We're gonna hit some dunes, drive some whoops, maybe do some power slides on the lake bed, and then Johnny and Shane are gonna take their rock crawlers up Jackhammer. invited a bunch of friends to come out, and what we wound up with is a really cool group of 4x4s. We've got everything from a brand new 2022 Silverado that you could drive across country in extreme comfort, all the way up to some really specifically built rock crawling rigs. Johnny Wood brought his 2000 Ram. He's got that thing so dialed in. He drove it on Ultimate Adventure in 2018, all the way from California to the start in Maine. It can tackle any trail in the country, and he's proven it by driving every trail in the country. It's really built with 1-ton axles, crawler gears, onboard air. He's got a welder in that thing. It's really bitchin'. Shane Wardle, he's got his 77 Cherokee Chief. Unlike my Cherokee Chief, he built his to the next level. He's got 1-ton axles under it. He linked the front suspension. It's on 40-inch tires, and like me, he's got the LS swap in there. But he's got a more modern transfer case. I kept the Quadra-Track. Like Johnny's rig, Shane's is kind of at the upper limits for daily driving, but they still drive them on the street. Cody was going to drive the Bronco, but unfortunately the transmission in that thing just completely went out. So we had to up the schedule on getting the Gear Star installed in it. In lieu of the Bronco, he drove his really bitchin' blue 73 Chevy Stepside. The thing has a 383 stroker injection. It's got a 4L80E transmission. His rear axle is a really cool semi-float 14 bolt that's a good upgrade for a 6-lug half-ton GM if you don't want to change the bolt pattern. So he drives that thing everywhere. It's got a lot of power, and it's super reliable for him. Corey's got a ton of LS-powered Scouts, off-road cars, but what did he drive out here? He took his wife's Rubicon. I mean, who could blame him? It's got a beautiful interior, working AC, all the amenities, but he's still got 40-inch tires and a really capable suspension, front and rear lockers. I mean, it's hard not to have a blast in that thing. Cody's buddy Bob brought out his 7.3-liter Power Stroke Excursion. Those things are super rare. They didn't make very many of them, and those ones with the 7.3 diesels are worth a fortune nowadays. Honestly, I couldn't be happier with the LS swap in this thing. It's just a joy to drive, got plenty of power, super fun, more economical, so it's just a win-win all around. The only thing I have left to do, I wound up with a little bit of rear driveline buzz, so I ordered a new CV drive shaft from Quigley. Unfortunately, it didn't come in time for this trip, but it's gonna arrive pretty much as soon as I get home. And once I get it installed, this thing should drive as smooth as silk. So we're gonna get out here, we're gonna rev up the onX off-road app. Everyone's got the app downloaded, and so all they have to do is open it up, pick the point we've already told them to meet at, and then just follow the line. We use onX Off-Road to navigate on Ultimate Adventure, do it on weekend trips like this. I mean, it's a great tool if you're an off-roader. Why not download it and pay the subscription? It's really worth it after a couple trips. Especially when you can tell your buddies, hey, here's where we'll be, come meet us. So that's the end of a killer day here at Johnson Valley. We used onX Off-Road to get the group here together. Had some crazy fun with the vehicles we built. Met some cool friends, made some new ones. What a great day. Fortunately, I gotta get to getting on Ultimate Adventure to make that happen. So I'm gonna kick this show over to my buddy Ian. He's got a really sweet build going on that I think you're all gonna really dig.